Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin. Friday, February 24th, and I drove to work this morning. I actually parked a little too far south and at Broadway and 22nd here. Not terribly far, but having completed the actually getting into the city so successfully down the FDR, on which I did a whole podcast, by the way. So this morning it shall be a podcast and a video, which you can just go to iTunes and search on Python. I'll be one of the, I'm in the Python experience there, where I talk just mostly about everyday stuff and how Python endlessly fits into everyday stuff. Not only on an actual coding level, which I do professionally for work, so I do on occasion delve into the precise coding details that I guess some people hunger for and are looking for in a podcast called The Python Experience, but I also delve into just the general abstract thinking that surrounds Python, the level of abstraction that Guido van Rossum has chosen to feature for Python. And that's what it is. Every programming language kind of, oh, by the way, let me do a little 360 here, because one of my favorite buildings of late, the Empire State Building, is right there behind me. A lot of fun. As I never tire of pointing out, I worked there for a few months for a advertising and marketing, digital marketing company called Acronym that did really well this year on those, I guess, wave report things from, I forget, I think it's Forrester's or Gardner, but I think it's Forrester's wave report, which is a X by Y plotting the relative strengths of different advertising agencies, digital marketing ones sometimes, and Acronym, that company I worked for up there, did really well. They have a lot of interesting proprietary software that does things that is really, ahead of its time. I think they have some patents on it. In some ways it's easy to downplay because it's like, of course, you correlate data from over here that you know to exist and be about a certain thing to data over there that you know to exist and is about that same certain thing, so you can find the correlations based greatly on, timestamps when they occurred, and zip them together to turn not provided back into provided as far as keyword data on search hits, because your own data is always the best. As anyone who uses the Google AdWords API knows, and I think I'll do another 360 just because of the way I parked. I actually am taking a different way to work, and it's quite beautiful, and place I come out to at lunch sometimes. There's this famous Shake Shack behind me there. It's never worth really waiting in line for it, but interesting experience. And so lost my train of thought there, didn't I? Yeah, Python and the abstraction levels, and how Python is actually crafted so that you're dealing with thoughts at the correct level of abstraction, so you don't get bogged down in these micro implementation details all the time, or so that you don't have to accumulate your own personal libraries that does every type of thing that you need to do that you've done in the past and might need to reuse in your own personal library of codes and packages, which is popular in the C world and the C++ world. And you are not tied to just like one way of doing a thing excessively, because Python has been around for long enough, and there's been enough people contributing their software to the centralized code repositories, mostly in this case the thing called PyPI, I believe they call it. I hope I get it right. But it's, when you do a pip install, it's where that software is grabbed from. And, it's I believe a minimally funded, loosely knit coalition of people who are keeping some machinery miraculously working. And we should all be very thankful for the pip system. Without it, Python would not be in parity with such languages as, say, JavaScript that has NPM and Ruby that has the GEM system, software repository systems that were designed into the programming languages from birth, at least in the case of Ruby, maybe not so much in JavaScript, but NPM has evolved to become that function. Well, in Python, pip has evolved to become that function, and people who have solved problems in various problem domains contribute their work there. So when you tackle a problem, there's not just one way to tackle it in Python, there's like 5 ways to tackle it, and you have to choose which of these various, all free and open source software packages, all one command away from installing, along with all their dependencies, is best suited to solve your particular problem best. So what you lose by not being on these flowery, fluffy IDEs like Visual Studio and Xcode, you gain back by having a massive software repository at your disposal to peruse through to solve your problem, to minimize the amount of code that you have to actually take the responsibility of writing yourself. And in Python, it's that last level. You sprinkle on that last level of abstraction to shape it into the apps and systems that you need, which is why Python is so popular for building frameworks, because Python itself is in fact a framework. It's got a data object model and an interpreter. They call it an interpreter. You can actually go in and look at the code that Python is written in. Python's source code, written, I believe, in C and C++, and understand how the Python interpreter works. So not only does it have its machinery that executes things and carries things out, it also has objects of certain shapes that it expects to work upon. And those are things from the common library, which can easily be extended to get the best of multiple worlds. And so you start thinking in Python. So your day-to-day thinking takes on a nature where, well, let's call it what it is. We all start to think a little bit like Guido van Rossum. If only I could pronounce his name correctly. Is all about virtual machines. And we've got a massive virtual machine runner up here in our brain. When we go through our daily day-to-day routine, we are doing so by expecting how things are going to happen, predicting them, and acting accordingly, running simulations ahead of time, sometimes just in time, others planning for weeks or months or years. And that can be used in that capacity in us to run virtual simulations. And here I am, it's looking crazy, right? One of those can be Python, and it helps you organize and structure your thought. It certainly helps you do a little bit of coding in your head when you're not in front of a terminal. Coupled with a muscle memory of Vim, you actually feel like you could be creating the code in your head. You actually reach that point. You go, oh, that's how I could solve that problem at work. And then you come to work raring to go and, implement something that, in a process which I think is just part of common literacy these days. How could it not be? Python or something like it, there are multiple dialects of languages and some people speak only certain languages. Most Americans are just English speakers. And so it is with programming languages. I propose that Python is the equivalent of English. It's going to be used in most cases for technology because it's the path of least resistance and gets the job done and is highly implemented and everything supports it and everything is wonderful when you choose Python. But all these other languages will continue to exist for their particular spaces and what they do best. It's just that what Python does best, among various other things, is being a very powerful and very capable general system, applicable to lots of problems in lots of code execution settings, and across a lot of hardware, and has a lot of pre-built stuff so that you minimize how much you put into it. Anyway, that's enough for this talk. Thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.